What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Engine House. My name's Cody. I'll be your host today. And if this is your first time listening, welcome. Grab some coffee, pull up a chair, because that's what we do at the Engine House at 4 o'clock is we call Fresh Pod over the PA, and everyone grabs a cup, and we sit around and we share these conversations. Before we get started, though, I need to mention our sponsors for the episode. The first being my business, Engine House Designs. We specialize in custom fire service apparel, so you can check us out at enginehousedesigns.com. And then also the Kitchen Table Foundation. They're doing a lot of great work for the men and women of the fire service, and they've got a lot of great resources. So check them out if that's something that you're needing at kitchentablfoundation.org. Today we do have a hot seat episode, and we're going to be talking with a fellow Memphis fireman of mine about a recent, well, somewhat recent incident that he experienced, and kind of how he's recovered from that and how life has been moving forward. So let's kick this off with our first segment called The Size Up. This is a brief introduction of our guest. And so, what I need from you, pal, is your name, your current assignment, how many years of service you have, and then if there's anything else you want the audience to know, go ahead and throw it out there.
All right. So my name's Cody Miller. I am a driver for Memphis Fire Driver Paramedic on Truck 5 C shift. I have been with Memphis for 8 and roughly a half years. Prior to that, I came from the Phoenix area. I had 10 years of service out there before I got here.
Nice. So, you've been doing it for a minute.
For a minute.
For a minute.
For a minute.
Couple minutes, I guess. Um, so, I mean, you and I kind of met organically through the job. There wasn't one particular um, incident or reason that we met, but just over the years crossing paths. Um, from you were at Engine 23, I believe, the first
Mhm.
time I met you, when you were a cool engine guy, and then switched over to the dark side. But no, and then we've just continued to cross paths throughout the years, and you know, so much so now I would call you a friend. But
Definitely.
um, I was excited to get you on here because you did experience something that not a lot of people experience, and hopefully, throughout the years, less people experience these unfortunate events. But um, before we dive into that, I kind of wanted to just throw out a quick little fun question for you. So, what would you say prior to this incident, or I guess excluding this incident, what would you say is the most memorable roof job that you've had?
Man, so I think excluding the actual incident, the most memorable roof job that I've had was the first one after it. Is one
Hmm.
that I will always remember. But I think previous to any of this, me and Slarv actually, Slarv was with me on the roof and all that stuff. We made a fire on the same street, a couple houses down, and it looked like it was, ripping. Turns out it was just kind of in the back of the house. But when we pulled up, Slarv yelled from the back seat, "Hole or no hole." Well, all I
Hmm.
heard was no hole, and I assumed that it was our lieutenant saying, "Hey, we don't need a hole."
Yeah.
So, and this story kind of takes a little bit of a turn, but so we got out. I got out with a hook, did not grab a ladder, had no intention of getting on the roof because I assumed we didn't need a hole. So we went to the
Right.
front door. We pulled down the boards. It was all boarded up. Got the fire out, and Lieutenant Guest says, "Hey, did you cut a hole?" And I was like, "No, you told me not to." And he was like, "I never told you that." And Slarv was like, "Oh, that's my bad. I yelled hole or no hole in the back." Well, it turns out after everything was said and done, we're going in to finish overhaul, and this house had already burned once, and the ridge beam was completely burned out. It wasn't there. The only reason that this roof was still up at the peak was because of the shingles holding it together. So had we ended up getting on that roof, we could have had an incident much like what we had before, but it may have turned out worse. So
Sure.
um, I think just by happenstance, we didn't get on that roof, but that is one that will definitely always stick with me, is that it's really important to get a good roof profile and not get tunnel vision. And sometimes when you get lucky and hear somebody yell no hole, just go with it and don't cut a hole.
Absolutely. Yeah. Um, and that, how long after the incident did that occur?
Um, maybe 3 months tops.
Yeah. So still pretty fresh in the mind.
Yeah, I mean it was like pretty recent.
Yeah. Well, like I said, today's going to be a hot seat episode. Hot seats, basically guest centered. I have a lot of questions for you that I've been wanting to ask you, pick your brain about, um, centered around this particular incident. So getting into this, like we kind of talked before, I don't want to go totally in depth about what happened, because I don't want to take away from Steve Orsini's podcast, The Copper State Fireman. So for anyone listening, if you want to hear the in-depth meat and potatoes of exactly what happened and some of the problems that consisted, you can check out the Copper State Fireman podcast, and Cody has 2 episodes on there actually going into great depth of exactly what happened. But if you don't mind, buddy, would you just give a brief summary of kind of what happened to you and what y'all experienced?
Yeah. So basically, the short of the long is we get sent out for a residential structure fire. It's the typical, battalion 3, 14s, 8s, truck 5, 20s, battalion 3, battalion 1, all the regular players. We get sent down to Stevens Place for a house fire. 14s pulls up, gives their disposition, single story wood frame, fire showing in the Bravo. Cooler night, not really cold, not really hot, a little bit of wind, but nothing out of the norm. We pulled up. House looked good, right? There's not a whole lot of fire showing, none from the vantage point that we had when we parked. A little bit of smoke. Roof profile looked just fine. We climbed up, sounded the roof all the way up. Slarv was right behind me. He had the saw. I had a Lawless axe, which is awesome. Shout out to Lawless. I'm not getting paid. Nobody is, but Lawlesses are awesome. So you should definitely invest in one.
Yeah, if they want to sponsor the podcast.
Yeah, hey, sponsor the podcast. Send me a new one.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we sounded the roof all the way up. I got to the chimney, and the chimney was kind of right at the junction of 2 different peaks, and then it kind of went up a level. And as we were getting on the roof, Battalion 1 said, hey, just be advised, this is a 2-story building. So we thought that we had made it all the way up to the 2nd story. Turns out it was like a camelback construction, so it was a really long, what used to be a duplex with an addition on the back that made it 2-story. We hit the chimney, and I turned around and told Slarv, which is super odd because I never do this, I stay away from them, but I said, hey, the chimney's right here if you slip. And he was like, cool, got it. I took 3 or 4 more steps back towards the Charlie. Kind of lost visibility because of the smoke. I stepped off the ridgeline and said, hey, we're going to cut right here. Slarp said, got it. He stood up, and I moved my right foot and felt it start to give away. I said some expletives, and my left foot went in. At some point, I kind of got turned, or I think I got turned. I don't really know, but from that point forward, it happened really fast. I remember it giving away. I remember yelling, oh shit. Slarv yelled, I've got you. And then everything kind of went red/black/ I don't really know. So it turns out that the attic was fully involved, but there was no signs of that when we got on the roof, right? No smoke through the shingles, nothing coming out of the eaves, nothing coming out of the little whirly birds or the vents nothing. Mm-hmm. So I fell in. Obviously, it vents out around me. I was able to get my composure enough to call my own mayday, and I just remember thinking, this sucks. Like, I knew I was in trouble the second that it happened.
Sure.
So I thought, I got to call a mayday. Found my mic, and in Steve's episode, I think he's got the audio of it. You can hear during my lunar there's like a really rhythmic banging, and that's me trying to get out of the attic.
Mm.
And I just remember thinking they're beneath me. If I can pop my foot through or just get a hole or something, um, maybe they can find me. And then kind of everything goes black. I really don't remember what happened after the Mayday. The next thing I remember is seeing a light in front of me. Um, I remember in my brain, in my mind, I was yelling, "Hey, I'm over here," and crawling towards it. Um, I think the next shift or two shifts later, we had a CISD, and Moose and Harmon and Lieutenant Guest were the three guys that found me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I heard their rendition of how they found me, I realized that I could not have seen what I saw.
Sure.
In my brain, I was crawling and making all this motion. And when they found me, Harmon said he thought I was dead
Mm.
because I was laying motionless on the ground in the hallway.
Damn.
And Moose only knew it was me because he could see the back of my helmet, and I've got a couple playing cards from a fire that we made at a state representative's house that I thought was super cool. So they're on the back of my helmet.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Holy shit, that's Cody's helmet. Why is he's not supposed to be in here?" So just based on how my face was, I couldn't have seen what I thought I saw.
Sure.
And I remember everything came back really fast. And I remember Lieutenant Guest grabbing my right shoulder strap. And then after that, the next thing I remember is finding Slarv in the front yard. But I mean, lots of things go through your head really fast. The first one being I need to call a mayday, immediately followed by don't scream when you start to burn because it's going to be hot.
Sure.
And then thoughts of, my wife and my kids. And dude, it's been almost a year and I talk about it and I still get choking up because like, you hear all these stories about what goes through your head in these moments. Your life flashes before your eyes, or you have this sense of calm and it's euphoric. No, it's not any of those things.
Hang on 1 second.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
There we go.
There he is. So, you never want to be the one who goes through these, right? And you hear, like I said, stories, but there was no euphoria. There was no visions going through my mind. It was not panic, but it was, I am in a bad spot and I don't know if I'm going to get out of this. And I don't know if I'm going to go home. So I didn't want the guys to know I was suffering. And I also needed to come to terms with the fact that, my daughter just made the soccer team. I'm never going to get to watch her play.
Sure.
My son plays baseball. I'm not ever going to get to do that again. And, who's going to call my wife? Who's going to go to the house? What does this look like?
Right.
And then those things are happening. And then immediately I'm in the front yard and now, holy shit, I'm alive.
Yeah.
When Lieutenant Guest found me, I tried to get him off me and go back inside and look for Star. Like I needed to know where he was.
Right.
And you can hear on the audio, you hear somebody say, truck 5 driver, where's Slarv? That was me. I don't remember saying that, but I keyed up and was looking for Slarv.
Right.
I needed, I thought that he was in the attic with me. So, here he is up on the roof. His radio doesn't work. It's got a malfunction for whatever reason. He thinks that he just watched me die. And I think that he's in the attic burning with me.
Sure.
So it was a lot of things happening. And there's some physiology behind all of this too that, we can get into a little bit of it, but, um, it's a lot of emotions and endorphins and a lot of things happening very quickly that, you know, it's like, man, you read about this and you hear about this and you train for it, but you never know that you're ready until unfortunately you have to test yourself.
Right. Well, and how important is that training mixed with experience? Because um, you talk about the things that you did after you fell through the hole, and I mean, it's amazing how in tune and focused we can become when we truly enter fight or flight mode. Um, Obviously, this doesn't even shed light on what you went through, but there was a fire that we had made. It was an apartment complex, and there's no indications of a basement from the exterior. Ended up being a 12-foot basement, and I fell through the floor to my waist. And the first thing you think is like, you just take a deep breath and you just start thinking like, okay, my legs aren't burning.
Right.
Can I crawl out of this hole? It's amazing what the human body is capable of when it truly comes down to like when you go into survival mode. So
Right.
it's really cool to hear. Obviously, what happened isn't cool, but like
Yeah.
just you're working to get yourself out of the attic as you're calling a mayday. You're thinking about all these things, and it's just truly amazing how the body works. Um, Man, how many years of service did you have on when this happened?
Um, it was in April of last year, so just under 8, like
And
literally,
plus the
like,
previous,
yeah, yeah.
and then how many holes do you think you had cut prior to that day?
I don't even know. I've been on, I mean,
Who knows, right?
there's pictures on this wall behind me of roofs that were way sketchier than the one that we were on. I mean,
Sure.
we'd been on roofs that were, guys from back in Arizona, you send pictures and videos and they're like, what the hell are you even doing up there? Right. Or even some of our guys are like, we maybe want to not do that one again. But like we've been
Yeah.
on way worse roofs than that. I don't even know. I mean, definitely double digits.
Right. But my point to the audience is that this wasn't no rookie mistake. This wasn't a guy who just came on, who went up and didn't pay attention to things. You know, uh, just listening to how you approached it, obviously was a well thought out, experienced, seasoned plan. And this is just one of those instances where the what could go wrong went wrong, and there was not really anything that you could have done differently to prevent it.
Right. I mean,
So
it's that perfect storm of you can do everything right and it can still go horribly wrong. I mean, and
absolutely.
I think that's why it's important to take training seriously, right? Like, and I've said it before, I'll complain about state pay with the best of us, some of
Yeah.
them. But the ones that matter are the ones where you learn to refine those little things that they're always talking about.
Right.
And Mayday and Lunar and being comfortable with even saying those just around the kitchen table, right? You
Yeah.
ask a rookie or a 20-year guy, hey, give me a Lunar report real quick, right? And everybody freezes up. We can talk on a radio, no problem. We can do all that, but then you get put in the hot seat, for lack of a better term. Hey, give me a Lunar
Hmm.
real quick, and everybody's like, and
Yeah, for sure.
it's practice and repetition, and it's just understanding that everybody always says you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your training. Well, lucky for me, the level of my training was I need to call a mayday.
Right.
Um,
Absolutely.
and
And that was maybe one of the easier ones to make that decision, because sometimes I think the reason guys don't call Mayday is because they think I can get myself out of this. You know, that was a pretty clear cut one. Like, I need to call Mayday. you know,
right, right. I
um,
I did not care what people thought about me for calling that mayday. Like, you want
yeah,
to call me a bitch,
absolutely.
that's fine. I bet you would call the mayday too if you were in that attic. I can promise you, you probably would.
Every time.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Um,
that being said, right, like it does not matter the severity of what you think. If you are in the position where you think you need to call a mayday, you probably should have already called it.
Sure. Yeah.
And that threshold is personal for everybody, man. I can't tell you when you should or shouldn't call. I mean, there's obviously times where I can say, yeah, you probably need to call a mayday if this happens. But, if you get into a situation where the thought goes into your mind about a mayday, you're probably already 2 seconds too late. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And I
Well, and then
think,
if you did call it, not in this incident,
right,
but if you did call it and you didn't need a mayday, at least you called it. And
right,
then maybe in the future, like, okay, well, just because I slipped and fell on the floor, I don't need to call a mayday.
right,
And that's all part of learning. The best way we learn is by doing the job.
right. In my opinion, calling a mayday and not needing it's obviously not the same, but it's in the same realm of calling a STEMI and it not being a STEMI.
Right.
Calling
Absolutely.
a stroke and it not being a stroke, right? I'd rather call it and get it going and you can tell me no than me get there and get my ass torn up because I didn't call a STEMI that maybe I missed. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
they say, I don't remember the exact verbiage or the article or whatever, but it was something about 30 seconds for a mayday, right? And I think what's important to understand is that they don't mean wait 30 seconds to call a mayday. If you call a mayday in the first 30 seconds of your issue, your chances of rescue go up to like 90%.
Mm,
So that's thinking and that's quick thinking. That's fast. I've identified an issue. I need to call a mayday.
sure.
But how good are we at problem identification, right? Literally what we do.
Yeah.
You call 911 and you say, I don't know what's wrong. I need help with something. They're like, I got you. We'll send you a fire truck.
Yeah.
Right. And we problem solve. That's what we do. So, the identification of an issue is not the problem. It's the courage, I guess, to take the next step and say, I need to call Mayday
Right.
because there's such a stigma behind it.
Absolutely. Man, how long were you out of work after this happened?
None.
None. So I mean, you were lucky you didn't sustain any major injuries or nothing.
No, physically, no. I mean, I had some scratches on my back. Like I had a couple really minor burns on my neck, but they got me out to the front yard. We sat down. I looked at Chief Barry and I said, "Hey, ventilation complete." He did not appreciate the humor at that moment. Didn't think it was funny at all,
Yeah.
but I did. They put me in the back of the unit. The two unit guys checked me out. Were super thorough. But the second they took their eyes off of me, I put my turnouts back on and went back in the house and started pulling ceiling.
When I heard you tell that story in Orsini's podcast episode, I just pictured like, they turn around to grab something out of a cabinet and then they turn back around and you're gone, like out of a movie or something. Like where'd he
Pretty
go,
much exactly how
Um
that. Um,
so what was it like the very next time that you went up to a roof? Just go through that. What were you thinking? What were the emotions attached to that? Um, just what was the experience like getting back on a roof after that?
yeah, um, it was terrifying. It was what I imagine a brand new guy or girl feels like the first time they get on a roof. Even just in training, like somebody's never been on a roof before, they have no idea what to expect. That is that is the feeling that I would probably equate with what I had. I was absolutely terrified.
Sure.
Um, I mean, I was shaking. I was, you know, but it's like I said before, like you just do it one step at a time. So I got the ladder as soon as we pulled up. I knew we were getting on the roof and cutting a hole. There was no
Mhm.
question about it, and I was terrified. But I did it. I mean, Rhett was riding behind me. Rhett Pickering, dude, supported the shit out of me through it. Um, we got up there. We put a roof ladder up. I took one step at a time, and we got up and cut the hole. And I got down, and I was completely spent. Like
Yeah.
every ounce of energy that I had was gone in that moment.
Sure.
But it it makes you feel good about yourself that you can overcome something like that, right? Like the resiliency of, hey, I still got it. But I was definitely a little overcautious. Like I was very slow and intentional about what I was doing, and probably sounded that roof better than any roof's been sounded in the history of ever.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it was scary, man. I mean, it was scary, but you know, um, courage again, one of these sayings from whomever, right? Courage is not the lack of fear, but the ability to look it in the eye and kind of overcome it or whatever. Like that.
Right.
That was kind of just how I needed to approach it, right? I can be scared and still do my job. Those two things can exist at the same time.
Sure.
So that's kind of just how I've approached it since then.
Right. Well, they kind of say like, if you ever get to a point where you're not a little bit nervous, if you don't get that on edge feeling, like I don't want to say scared because we get exposed to it enough that we kind of become numb to it, I
Yeah,
guess, until you go through something like that and where it brings it back to reality. But, you walk into enough burning houses that you don't really, it's not like that first time. Um, 'Cause you don't really get scared anymore, but you should always kind of have that like heightened sense, I guess.
yeah,
And they say if you get to that point where there's no heightened sense that like you're kind of getting comfortable, you
yeah.
know.
Like there
But
should always be a fair amount of hesitancy before you kick a door in or advance the hose line or get up. You know what I mean? Like the hesitating is, it's not being scared, it's not second guessing, it's
it's
us doing
thinking.
our job by, right, that it's thinking. That's,
Yeah.
should I go into this house, right? Not just a moth to flame kind of, hard charging in, which we're all hard chargers. We're great. It's one of the best things that we do is we're aggressive,
Right.
which is awesome,
Right.
right? There's not a ton of fire departments that are just stupidly aggressive these days. And we are not
Mm-hmm.
stupid, but we are aggressive
Right.
and we're good at what we do. And I think that it's smart for all of us, and the good companies out there hesitate a little bit before they go in. Everybody stops and they look, and it's the 360s, and it's all the things that we do that make us safe but aggressive.
Sure. How did how did life change for you after this happened? Um, we'll start with station life. As far as did it change anything that you do with your role, the relationship with the crew, your daily routine? Were there any changes that you noticed after this happened?
Yeah, for me, I've always been big on wearing your gear when you need to wear your gear, right? Like if there is something burning, you need to wear your gear. That's why we have it. So, excuse me. For me, I've always kind of been really big on that, and I've also never been the guy to tell you how to do your job, or unless it's solicited or you do right. Like if you ask me, yes, but um, I am I'm pretty firm on, if you're going to be on a roof with me, you're going to wear everything, and that's just how it's going to be.
Mm,
And if you're not going to wear everything, then you can stay down here, and I'll go up there and do it myself, or we can find someone else that will. Because, um, like I am, that is no questions asked. We're all wearing our gear on the roof, and that's just how that's going to be.
mm-hmm.
I definitely was concerned with them second guessing me. Um, like, do they trust me still? Do they feel like they can have me on this truck? Like, does Chief trust me? Is he always going to call for another truck, or what, right? Like this second guessing of myself. And
Right.
um, I think that it's healthy for all of us after we have an incident, whether it's our fault or someone else, right? You can't control it. After any type of incident like this, I think it's healthy to do a little bit of self reflection, which I have definitely done. What can I do better? What should I do better? What should I have done better?
Right.
And I think just, you know, that's kind of the biggest change with me, was like, I really want to make sure that these guys still trust me.
Sure.
Um,
Uh, what about um what about home life? Did it change anything at home?
Hell yeah.
I mean, I imagine so, but you
Um,
just fill us in like what as far
so
as your how you treat day-to-day things. Um what your wife experienced, stuff like that.
Yeah. So it definitely changed how I feel about time. And I don't mean like time. I mean um like physical time with people that you care about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to make every moment with my wife and my kids and the people who are super close to me, like I want to make those moments count.
Sure.
And I think that is probably one of the biggest changes for me. Like I realized who matters and who doesn't, and what matters and what doesn't. Like little things now, I don't care.
Yeah.
If it's not going to affect me in 20 years, if it's not something that would have gone through my head when I thought I was going to die, I don't sweat it.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, and you know, like six things went through my head that day, and three of them are in the house and three of them are at work. So I mean, you
Yeah.
know, I have everything that I need. You know, really. Um, my wife handled it like a seasoned vet. I mean, just took it and kept going and was incredible, and still is. You know, the first thing she asked me when I walked in the house was, "Did you call a mayday?"
Sure.
And you know, keep in mind, like, and I explained this on Steve's podcast as well, but I couldn't even hear the sound of her voice on the way home. Like, I
Sure.
could not physically handle it. So, um, I walk in the door and I grabbed her and I'm squeezing the life out of her and I'm sobbing. And I turn and look and I'm on the news sitting in the front yard. It says firefighter injured as, you know, falling through the roof.
Oh shoot.
So that's kind of how she found out.
Oh man.
You know, she asked me if I called a mayday and I said, yeah. And she's like, all right, well, it sounds like you did that right. Um, it's interesting that there's not there's not protocols for how you handle this,
Right.
and there's not trainings and classes on how you handle, you know, sounding extremely dramatic here, a near death experience
Sure.
for me, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I'm the one who went through it, but so did she, right?
Right.
And when you step back and you do some research, because I've done a ton, um, and you kind of understand what is happening in the marriage dynamic. um, Here I am, you know, scratching to get back to her because she is what I thought about in the attic, right? That was my safety. That was life to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I come home and tell her that I almost didn't come home, and that, you know, that also is a fracture. So for me, I want to be close, right? That is what I need to feel like I'm not looking death in the face again.
Right.
And you know, she has to process, holy shit, my husband almost didn't come home.
Right.
What does that look like? What happens? What does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
So um it I mean, and I'll tell you without, you know, sounding too horrible about it, but it looks like, you know, um trying to create some space because you don't want to have to deal with that, right?
Sure.
So if I put a little bit of cushion here, if he doesn't come home next time this happens, I won't be completely fucking broken.
Sure.
And that is completely subconscious, not, you know, um, so like I said about the physiology part of it, right? When we get into these situations where death seems imminent,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of what the situation is, if you perceive death as imminent, like legitimately, um, your body switches gears and it changes from your brainstem controlling you to your amygdala and your prefrontal cortex.
Mm-hmm.
And when that happens, your amygdala does not make, cannot understand reasoning. There is no reasoning. It's
Sure.
either life or it's death.
Yeah.
And if whatever situation we're encountering is not life, that must mean it's death.
Sure.
So coming out of that, right, your amygdala and the rest of your brain, when the amygdala stops controlling everything, which it actually doesn't ever stop after it's been, when you turn that nuclear key and push the code in and the amygdala takes over, it never really gives up control ever again. You have to learn to control that reaction. You have to learn to kind of calm your amygdala down. But from what I understand after the reading and everything, like for the rest of my life, I'm going to have to fight with this, you know, change of power inside my brain.
Sure.
So for her, right, it's the same thing. The amygdala takes over because, losing me that's traumatic. That's horrific. That's horrible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So her nervous system takes over on a different setting, right? So mine is I have to, hold your hand and pet your hair every second of the day because that's what calms my nervous system down.
Mm-hmm.
And her nervous system says, put a cushion between you and this person because if he dies next time, we won't, we'll be okay.
Right.
Um, and let me tell you something, that realization doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen in 6 months and it sometimes it doesn't ever happen for couples that go through this.
Sure.
I can't speak specifically for fire department, but the studies on couples, marriages surviving an event like this where one of them has a near-death experience and the other one does not, um, there is a lot of trials and tribulations that they go through. So, testament to my wife being able to understand all of these things and for both of us to be able to sit down and talk it out and realize what's happening. Like it would have been easier if I had been burned to shit and was wrapped up and, in a wheelchair, right? Because those
Yeah.
injuries are physical and people can see them and they're like, oh man, that guy really went through it.
Yeah.
But the shit that we're going through, man, it's invisible. Like the things that I'm dealing with and my home life and the rest of it, like you don't get to see those injuries.
Right.
So
Man, what is it? What is it like, going through what you went through, coming home, your wife gets to experience this the way that she did, and there's a part of you that is like, holy shit, I almost died, and I just want to be around my wife, and now she's experiencing this and she's processing this, and so there's another part of you that says, I'm the man, I'm the husband, I'm the provider, the protector. How do you, or how did you, or how are you currently um, balancing that between I've got to care for myself and I also have to care for her? What's that dance look like?
I mean, you know, our household is probably a little different than like she is so self sufficient. We're a team, but at the end of the day, like if she wasn't around, it would look like the apocalypse around here, right? Like the house would be burned down, the kids would be thin. I would have no like right like
Right.
she is the glue that keeps this whole thing running.
Sure.
So while I mean, we both provide, we both kind of do these things together. So the biggest thing for me was just trying to understand how what happened to me didn't just happen to me,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to understand the side of it from her
Sure.
because alls I can see is what I right like. I mean, I guess selfish, but not willingly being selfish, but like alls I know is how I'm feeling and the things that I'm having to try to process and get in and out of my brain, and not stopping to say, I need you to tell me what's happening in you, right?
Right.
And not just when I ask her, hey, are you good? Yeah, I'm good, right? Like not sitting back and saying, I need you to tell me what I'm here's all of these horrible things I'm feeling, like what is happening in you.
Mm-hmm.
And but we didn't know that that's what was going on. So once we kind of came to this realization, like it has been a team effort holding each other up, right?
Sure.
But she has supported me through this more than I've supported her through it. That is for sure.
Sure.
I
And
mean, she's definitely
what a difficult transition too. I mean, you go, you know, you're literally the one that experienced this, and so you come home and there's emotions from you, emotions from her, and you have to put that to the side. You have to deal with it and process it yourself. But as far as being there for her, you have to you have to sort of put that aside and say, I understand that this impacted you the way that it did, and I have to be here for you and help you how I can, because there's a lot of guys, and I'm guilty of it too. I would probably wouldn't handle this the best, but there's a lot of guys that maybe would take the selfish route and say, this happened to me. This didn't necessarily happen to you, so
right.
why are you feeling this way? Why, but I mean, that's super important, and that's awesome to hear that you were able to handle it. Y'all are handling it as well as you are. Um, and you're able to recognize that, hey, this was real for her too. And this is something we've got to work through together.
Yeah, and I mean, and it's not just me and her, right? It's the kids. Like, how do our kids cope with this? And my son copes with it a lot better than my daughter, but that's kind of normal for girls. But every once in a while, my daughter will bring something up, or it'll kind of come up in conversation. But um, I mean, being open and honest with Ainsley and with the kids about this is the incident, this is what happened. Here's the video, here's the audio, here's the podcast, here's everything that we've talked about. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, showing them the tactical decisions that we made and why we made them, and just kind of helping them understand, like, yes, this is an inherently dangerous job. Yes, we all know that bad things can happen to us. Yes, we see terrible things sometimes daily,
Sure.
but being open with them about it and letting them know, like, I'm feeling these ways. I'm struggling with this. I almost died, right? But also, that kind of lets them know that they can be open back and ask questions. And, what
Right.
is it that you have that you don't understand or whatever, right? And, I'm lucky in the sense that that's how my family operates. And that's, Ainsley and I are one and the same.
Yeah.
I'm not me without her, and she's not her without me, and um, I'm blessed to have that dynamic. I hope everybody has it. And
Yeah.
if you don't
Man, what a,
have that dynamic with a spouse, right? Hopefully you have it with somebody that you could just kind of bounce these things off of with someone.
yeah. What a tough thing to have to tell your kids about, you know? Was that something that you struggled with having that conversation?
Um, no, I mean it wasn't a struggle. It was just like, we got picked him up from school and we came home, and like they knew something had happened, right? Like they could see it on both of our faces. Like they clearly understood something had happened. So when I told them the story, we were sitting at the table, and it wasn't a struggle. It was just, kind of a realization on their part, like, holy shit, dad almost didn't come home.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, everybody talks about, you write these letters and you put them in a binder or wherever, right, in case you don't come home. And um, it was just kind of an eye opening moment for me because, you think about it, but you never think that you're going to be in the position to sit down and say, hey, this happened. I almost didn't make it back. So I don't think it was
Sure.
a struggle, but it was definitely like I wouldn't have chose to have that conversation with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know who would.
Yeah.
Um, Man, what about your other family, your fire department family? Um, going back to them, obviously, Station 8, particularly Truck 5, has had some bad luck over the last
Yeah.
few years. Um, and then this happens. So, did any of these similar conversations, obviously, you're not married to any of them, um, but I imagine that similar conversations maybe arose, and because we do solve the world's problems at the kitchen table. Um, so if they did, what kind of things did you say or do to just reassure the guys that you are who you are, you're still the same guy, you're still going to do that job?
You know, um, they they really came to me and they were like, "Hey, man, this happened. It doesn't define you. Like, you are who you are. You're still going to do the job." Like, it wasn't even something that I had to initiate.
Sure,
Mostly, um, we were all open about it. Once we had time, and again, time is relative, right? Because I went back inside the house. I never went home from shift, and I came back to work the next shift day. So, but once we all realized, and it kind of the dust settled a little bit, and after the CISD, and after we all had a moment to understand what had actually happened and how close this was to not turning out this way, um, they were very quick to let me know that you know they stand with me, they got my back, they support me, they trust me, that this doesn't change anything. If anything, it just kind of brought us all closer.
sure,
And I think the biggest thing for me was letting them know how much I appreciated all of them, um, doing what they continued to do on scene to make sure that I got out.
right.
You
I'm
know,
sure that helped a lot. With them initiating the conversation and saying those things, that probably helped a lot with the mental recovery of the
yeah,
situation.
definitely, definitely,
Because a lot of those insecurities and thoughts of doubt that you were having about, what do they think about me and stuff like that, that kind of got washed away a little bit when they said those things.
right. And you tell a phone, tell a friend, tell a fireman, right? Like people knew what happened, I think, before I even knew what happened. Like it was just, it spread, which is great because, you know, we've got great relationships with people and I know a lot of people and you ride these units and you get to just meet everybody and you work overtime. So everybody kind of knows who you are. And, the
Hmm.
word Mayday comes out. So now everybody wants to know what's going on. Um, so lots of people were obviously asking if I was all right and trying to find out what was going on. But then there's always the people who want to maybe speak out of turn and who think they know and they really don't have any idea and maybe want to say some shit that's not true or whatever, right?
Yeah,
And, obviously they can only go off of whatever information that they think they've gotten. So it was important for me to let people know, like, number one, yeah, I'm okay. And number two, this thing happened. And number three, all of these things that you're saying that you think you know, like, if you have questions, please ask me. You all know where I'm at. Most of you have my number. And being open to talk about it and discuss it, like, everybody has their opinion, and I respect that.
sure.
And everybody's entitled to their opinion. But the to the people who kind of spoke off key or before they really had all the facts, like, um, I didn't even have to say anything because the video proved all of that wrong from the jump. So,
Yeah,
you know, it's been, it's just kind of been a whirlwind of, you know, this happened and all these things and we did everything right. And then, you hope it doesn't happen again. Um, but I think everybody's kind of taken it in stride. I think it's been handled pretty well. I know for a fact that the guys that work closely with us in our battalions and the station at the eights for sure, like everybody's kind of been honest with themselves, like, yeah, I could be more diligent about wearing my stuff on the roof.
hmm.
So I
Well,
appreciate that. And that wasn't something that I tried to initiate. That's just kind of, they came to that realization on their own. And I think that that's professional and I think it's responsible. And I appreciate them being, you know, honest with themselves enough to say, yeah, I probably need to do this better.
sure. And well, if nothing else, some positive learning lessons came,
Yeah.
out of it. Man, you were talking about how fast word travels. Before any articles or anything were out, because we're both named Cody, I was getting so many text messages, and I'm driving my truck, and I'm getting all these text messages saying, "Are you good? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" And then somebody sent me the article, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Um, but it's funny, how fast word travels.
That's funny that you say that because I must get at least one text a month asking me if I can make a hoodie or something for them. And I'm like, dude, it's not me.
Just start telling them yes. Well, man, what advice do you have for firefighters that are returning to the job after they go through, a similar incident or some type of serious incident?
I mean, obviously, if you're injured, be injured. Get treatment, get help, get back to 90 to 100%. Don't rush, back to the job, right? Like, take the time to heal, which is rich coming from me because I literally took absolutely zero time to heal mentally or physically before I came back to work. I just went back to work, right? Like autopilot, but take the time. Um, go get evaluated, do the things that you need to do for you to make sure that you're taken care of the best you can. But if you're injured, you're injured. If you go through an event like this, whether you hear a mayday or you're on scene with the mayday or you execute the rescue of a mayday, right, or anything else, like, we've gotten a lot better at the I need to talk about some shit stuff. Like, this makes me feel a certain way, or hey, that sucked, or hey, I kind of want to talk about this, but like, talk about it.
Sure.
And to the senior guys, let them talk about it.
Yeah.
If it makes you uncomfortable that they feel a certain way about a call, that's okay. You feel uncomfortable. Don't make them feel uncomfortable about what they just did as a rookie or a 2 or 3 year person, right? Because that will sit with them forever.
Right.
And then they're going to be the 15, 20-year guy sitting at the table telling the rookie to shut the hell up about his feelings, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let them have feelings. Let them talk about it. Help them work through it. And if you can't deal with it, then send them to somebody who can.
Right.
Right? Like, be the leader that you looked up to when you were a rookie.
Sure.
And you were feeling ways about calls that you maybe needed to talk about that you couldn't because somebody couldn't handle feeling uncomfortable that you have a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm not saying everybody's like that. I'm making a blanket statement like, don't be afraid to talk about however it makes you feel.
Yeah.
Right? I have a visitor. So I think the biggest thing is like, be honest with yourself enough to know if you go through something or just a bad call, a bad fire, whatever, right? Like, don't be afraid to say, hey, I'm having some issues with this. But also, as a new firefighter, and I think the word rookie is kind of relative. The word new is kind of relative, right? Like, a new guy in Memphis might be less than a year guy, right? Whereas a new guy in another city that doesn't maybe have the fire duty that we have, like, the new guy might still be on for 3 years, right? That dude might still be new.
Right.
So, don't take the word new as being in your rookie year or whatever, right? Until you get that competency or whatever, I think it's just important to learn the job and always keep learning the job. And as I've said a million times, get proficient with the little things.
Right.
Like, the little things are going to be the ones that keep you alive.
Sure.
I think those are the most important things that we kind of just forget or whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, man, what would you say your most trusted gear during roof operations is, or maybe some gear that helped you the most?
Oh man. So I think in the incident specifically, having on my fire gloves probably was one of the most important things. Obviously, the SCBA and all the things, right? But
Mm-hmm.
having on fire gloves and not work gloves, I was able to touch the attic ceiling that was probably hot as shit, right? Try to get myself out. I was able to use my hands to find my mic. Like, had I not had gloves on or I had work gloves on, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like today. So
Right.
definitely, if you're using a Sawzall to cut a tree or whatever, or you're doing some overhaul, work gloves may be fine. But if you're doing firefighting, wear your firefighting gloves. That's why they're called firefighting gloves. Wear
Sure.
them.
Yeah. Because that is something.
Generalized, right? Generalized roof operations.
Yeah.
I really love my New York hook. However, the Lawless axe is awesome, and that's
Yeah.
no discredit to the pig and the piglet and all the other things that are out there and whatever. The Lawless is my jam. I love that thing. It's
Heck
easy
yeah.
to carry. It does multiple things. It cuts a hole in a roof with 3 or 4 or 5 layers in it, no problem. Like, I love the Lawless. And
Yeah.
again, not sponsored by them. I'm not getting paid, and neither is Cody. I'm just saying, really like that tool.
Not
I
yet.
also said New York hook, so or Lockwood. It's a Lockwood, but it's still I like that too.
Yeah. Well, for the young guys, um, how could they maintain some of the safety to hopefully avoid these serious incidents?
Specifically for truck guys or getting on a roof or whatever, get good at getting a roof profile. Get good at understanding what you're looking at. Study the building construction, right? You think, I don't need to know all that. You do a little bit. So get good with roof construction. Get good at looking at a roof and understanding where it's sagging or where it's weakest or if there's fire, right? Get good at reading the smoke. Like, it's super hot back there and there's a bunch of smoke, probably, um, compromised already, whatever, right? I think a good roof profile and learning some building construction and understanding how roofs are put together will help you continue to make good choices and getting on roofs and understanding the difference between, you know, a regular roof and a trussed roof or a trussed floor. Like, understand what all that means, understand how they're built, and understand how they fail.
Absolutely. Yeah. Building construction is a staple in being a good firefighter.
100%. Plus, if you
Wow.
know how something's put together, you know how it comes apart, so it makes overhaul 1,000 times easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It makes every aspect of this job easy. Knowing where the fire's going, knowing what could fail, like you said, knowing how to do proper overhaul or easier overhaul.
Yeah.
Um, but okay, so if there's anybody out there listening that has gone through something similar or they've gone through a critical incident, and maybe they're struggling, um, how can they reach out to you for questions or um, maybe they just want to share their story? Are you on social media? Is there an email or anything
Yep.
like that?
So I do have an Instagram. My handle or hashtag or whatever you call it is Memphis Fire Putter Outer 23. I think there's an underscore in there. It's a private account, so you're going to have to ask to follow me or send me a message.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, um, and if you put like a narrative or profile or whatever, like, you can put my phone number, my email in the description of this podcast. If somebody needs to talk about something, or they're not sure how to move forward, or they're not sure how to ask their wife a hard question about whatever it is, or anything, right? You just want to chat, right? Or their spouse is struggling and their spouse needs somebody to talk to. Like, me and my wife are here, and you can put my number and my email address in the description of this, and anybody can call me at any time, right? I might be
Absolutely.
asleep. I'll call you back. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But, like, if you need to speak to somebody, I'll be that guy. My wife will be right there. Like, we'll be those people if you just need help getting through this, specifically something like this, right? Or whatever. If I can help, I will. If I can't, I'll be honest. I don't know anything about that, right? But, like, I'm available. Put my contact info out there. If you need to talk to me, go ahead and hit me up.
Absolutely. And guys, please do. If that's something that you need and you feel like the resources that are available to you just aren't going to cut it, or you're nervous about, who's going to find out, reach out. You can reach out to myself. You can reach out to him. If you have questions or you just need to talk, use those resources. We're here for y'all. Um, but I think we've had a great conversation. We've covered, kind of what it looks like after something like this happens, and how to deal with it. And like you said, it's something that you're always going to deal with for the rest of your life, and that's not that's not you being a certain way. That's physiological changes, right? And so that's something I think is important that we should normalize or educate about in the fire service too. Is that we do experience things, and it's going to change who you are. It's going to change your brain's process, right? And overall, I think we've done a great job of covering that and and bringing this to light. So,
Okay.
is there anything
The,
else you'd like to throw out there before you wrap up?
I mean, the physical changes, like physically inside your brain, the rewiring, like your brain is a really powerful thing, and it's kind of an asshole, um, because you're going through these thoughts or these feelings, and you don't, maybe you don't know why, right? Maybe you don't even know that that's what's happening. You just think this is how I am now. But um, the brain is a really powerful thing, and as much as it can control you and make you think all these terrible things, right, like it can also help you do really incredible things if you have the ability to say to yourself, I need help, or I need to talk, or whatever. So like, it's just amazing. You never know what someone else is going through. They might
Sure.
look all right on the outside, they might show up to work on time, and they might show up to work every day, but like, even after an incident like this, or they never have an incident like this, right? Like, you never know what someone else is going through. So if you see something that's kind of weird, or maybe it's off, or they're not acting normal, or you maybe just met this person, and you don't know how they normally are, but like, man, that guy seems like he might need to talk to somebody, like, take that into account, and ask them. If they don't need help, maybe they'll tell you they don't. And even if they do, they might tell you they don't, but at least you asked.
Yeah,
So just
for
be
sure.
understanding that, like, just because somebody's physically okay on the outside, they still might be kind of messy on the inside.
Absolutely.
Professionally, as I could say that.
Well, you're a fireman, so.
Right.
But no, man, I can't say thank you enough for taking the time, sitting down, talking, sharing your story, and opening up about the things that you've dealt with post incident. I know that's not easy, but it's much appreciated, and it'll mean something to someone. Um, and that was the whole point, that I wanted to get you on here, is because I know that there's people out there that have experienced similar things, and they might just feel lost, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to deal with it. Like you said, maybe things aren't going right at home now ever since it happened, and they don't know why. Um, but I appreciate it. And if for the listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button. It'll get you notified every time we drop a new episode, every time we go live. Leave a review. That really helps us, boosting the show. And don't be afraid to comment your own stories, and join the conversation that way. Share this with a friend if you think this is something they could benefit from, or if you just like what we're doing here. Um, and don't forget to check out our sponsors, Engine House Designs and the Kitchen Table Foundation, which definitely the Kitchen Table Foundation would help with stuff like this. Like I said, they got a lot of great resources. But if that is it, then we will catch y'all in the next one in 2 weeks, for another great episode coming up. Um, but until then, stay safe and ignite the pride.